A man named Lewis was talking on the phone with Vena, whom he had a crush on for many years. Vena was very beautiful, just like her name. Because she broke up with her boyfriend, she temporarily had no place to go, so she wanted Lewis to come over and pick her up, and preferably drive there. Lewis naturally would not refuse the goddess's request, so he took out all his money to buy a car, and then embarked on the road to bad luck alone. But unexpectedly, before he drove very far, a police car caught up with him. It turned out that his brother Fuller was detained for fighting, and Lewis needed to go there to bail him out. There was no choice, so Lewis could only turn around and head to the police station. An hour later, Fuller and Lewis embarked on the journey together. Due to the long distance of the trip, Fuller bought a highway radio at a store so they could chat with other drivers to pass the time. But reality was very boring, as the radio was full of male drivers and there was no fun at all to speak of. After some boring back and forth, Fuller suddenly remembered that Lewis was good at imitating girls, so he had a new idea. He wanted Lewis to change his voice and chat randomly with those rough guys, and then, when the other party took the bait, tell them that he was actually a man too, which would definitely be quite amusing. Although Lewis was not very willing, he still could not win against Fuller's constant persuasion.
Hey there, who's this?
Rusty Nail.
Well, Rusty Nail, I hope you're doing better than I am. Man, this drive, it seems like it's taking forever.
Roger that, Candy Cane.
And if I were there, Rusty Nail, you know what I'd do?
Tell me.
I'd make you feel good.
Just when Lewis and the other party were chatting excitedly, the radio suddenly lost its signal, so they had no choice but to end this prank. However, things did not end there because of this. That night, the two passed by a motel, and since it was late, they decided to stay for a night and continue their journey tomorrow. When Fuller entered the motel, he saw a man making trouble at the front desk. After waiting for a long time and seeing the other party still talking endlessly, he interrupted him. Unexpectedly, this large man was very arrogant, directly cursing at Fuller, and not only that, he also pushed Fuller. Looking at the other party's size, Fuller did not dare to fight back and could only return to the car unhappily. Consequently, just at this moment, Nail's voice came through the wireless radio again. Realizing what was happening, Fuller immediately thought of an excellent idea. That was to lure Nail over and then make him enter the room where the large man was staying. In this way, with Nail fighting the large man, there would definitely be a good show to watch. So Lewis could only open the radio again to lure Nail to room 17, where the large man was. After everything was agreed upon, Lewis and his brother stayed in room 18. Not knowing how much time had passed, the two who were chatting suddenly heard a commotion outside. Fuller quickly ran over to check, and sure enough, the person who arrived was Nail. And not long after, urgent knocking sounds came from the room next door, followed by arguments and crashing sounds, and then it became completely silent. Feeling that the situation was not quite right, Lewis urgently dialed the front desk phone and informed them about what happened in room 17. After a while, the front desk called back stating that everything was completely normal, and the two completely relieved their worries. But unexpectedly, early the next morning, the police suddenly came to their door. It turned out that the large man from last night really had an accident, as he was knocked unconscious and dumped by the roadside, and his condition was extremely miserable. Since an incident occurred, they did not dare to hide it anymore, and quickly told the police the whole story from beginning to end. Because they did not directly participate in the assault, the police could not detain them, and eventually, the two were kicked out of here by the police. Soon, night fell again, and feeling bored, they opened the wireless radio once more, unexpectedly finding that Nail's voice appeared inside again. Seeing that the other party was still looking for them, Lewis decided to confess everything to Nail to end this farce. And Nail was very reasonable, stating that as long as they apologized sincerely, everything would be treated as if it never happened. But when Fuller next to him heard about apologizing, he immediately lost his temper.
You're no black sheep. You really ought to get that fixed.
Get what fixed?
Your tail light.
It turned out that Nail was following right behind them at this moment, and the two instantly panicked a bit, knowing that if they were caught by the other party, they would surely be beaten terribly. So Lewis intended to accelerate to shake off the other party, not expecting that the car's fuel tank was already nearly empty. Just when they were at a loss, a ramp suddenly appeared ahead, and Lewis took the chance to make a sharp turn into it, successfully losing the truck behind them. Not long after, the two arrived at a service area, and while Fuller was refueling, Lewis quickly went into the convenience store to call the police. Consequently, at this time, an ice delivery truck also followed them here, and immediately after, a man walked down from the vehicle holding a weapon. Seeing this scene, Fuller immediately thought he was Nail, so he quickly waved his hand to signal Lewis. Lewis turned his head to look and found that the man was quickly walking toward him, so having no choice, he could only hang up the phone, pay the bill, and leave. But unexpectedly, before the two had gone very far, that truck suddenly chased after them. In a panic, Lewis drove directly into a dead end, finally stopping in front of a farm gate. At this time, the truck behind also stopped, and then that man came to the side of their car, and only when he took out Lewis's credit card did they finally realize that this whole thing was a misunderstanding. His pursuit was merely to return the credit card that Lewis had just lost. After the man left, the two finally completely put their hearts at ease. Who would have known that at this moment, a truck suddenly appeared and directly crashed through the utility vehicle? It turned out that the person driving this truck was the real Nail. Seeing this, the two quickly got into the car to flee. They crashed through the iron gate and drove straight ahead while the truck chased relentlessly behind them. Seeing that the truck was about to collide with them, Lewis suddenly executed a drift, successfully escaping the pursuit. Although the truck was successfully avoided, their car got stuck in a mud pit and could not move. And just as the two were arguing, the truck crashed toward them again. Trapped in the car, they could only watch helplessly as the vehicle was gradually crushed flat. And in the moment of extreme danger, Fuller picked up the walkie-talkie in the car.
We apologize! Don't kill us, man! I'm just playing with you, man!
Well, I was just playing with you, man.
Unexpectedly, after Nail finished speaking, he directly reversed and left this place. They managed to escape death once again just like this. After dawn, they came to a repair shop, fixed the car, and continued their journey. This time, Fuller completely admitted defeat, choosing to throw the wireless radio directly out of the car window. After a journey full of twists and turns, Lewis finally successfully met Vena. Seeing Vena, they both fell in love with her in their hearts. In order not to make Vena worry, the two did not mention the encounters they had experienced before. The three embarked on the return trip, and soon night fell, and the three stayed in a motel once again. After spending a day together, Fuller was completely attracted by Vena. While Lewis was fast asleep, Fuller took a few cups of strong liquor and secretly ran into Vena's room. After drinking a few cups of strong liquor, Vena's eyes began to look blurred. At the same time, Lewis on the other side was sleeping, completely unaware that his girl was about to be taken away. At this moment, the telephone in the room suddenly rang. Lewis, who was dazed, was instantly shocked into a cold sweat, realizing that this Nail had actually been tracking them all the time. In a panic, Lewis hurriedly rushed into Vena's room. Sure enough, Fuller was staying together with Vena, and Lewis did not think too much, quickly telling Fuller what had just happened. The two did not dare to delay any longer and directly pulled Vena, who did not know what was happening, out of the motel. On the road, Lewis explained the whole story to Vena. Meanwhile, Fuller, who was driving, saw a road sign that had been spray painted, and the combined meaning was to please open the trunk. So Fuller immediately stopped the car to check, and unexpectedly, the lost wireless radio was placed inside. Clearly, Nail's intention was to have them reinstall it. Sure enough, after connecting the wireless radio, Nail's voice appeared in the walkie-talkie. But Nail's words made Vena's blood run cold, as he had actually captured Vena's close friend, Charlotte. Then, Nail stated that the three must act according to his instructions, otherwise, he would end Charlotte's life. Having no choice, the three could only listen and obey helplessly. Promptly, Nail demanded that they get off at the next gas station, and then had the two brothers stripped naked to go into the restaurant to buy hamburgers. As for Vena, she was to stay in the car and wait. After leaving the restaurant, Nail had them go to a wasteland, and then get out of the car to walk 30 meters. When the three successfully completed the instruction, Nail drove the truck to this place. However, soon the three realized that things were not quite right, as the other party actually drove directly toward them without slowing down at all. With no other choice, the three could only hide into the nearby cornfield. After a round of extreme evasion, Vena somehow lost track of the group, and the two brothers instantly broke into an argument. And just at this moment, the two suddenly saw flames lighting up not far away. They walked closer to check, and found that the car was on fire. At the exact same time, Vena's screams echoed from the wireless radio inside the car. It turned out that Nail had already captured Vena, and then Nail stated that if they wanted to rescue these two women, they must rush to the motel in the next town, room 17, before midnight. At this time, Lewis's car had already been destroyed, and walking a distance of over 10 kilometers was simply impossible. Fortunately, Fuller knew how to steal a car, but when the two successfully rushed to the town, they panicked, because there were motels everywhere here, and they had no idea which room Nail was in. In a desperate situation, the two could only search room by room. Meanwhile, Nail on the other side also began his operation. He tied Vena to a chair, nailed the chair firmly with iron nails, and took out a shotgun pointing directly at Vena's head, with the shotgun's trigger tied to a string that connected to the doorknob of the room. After finishing all this, Nail sealed Vena's mouth so that Vena had no way to cry out. As long as the room door was pulled open by someone, her head would be blown off by a gunshot. Afterward, Nail dialed the police phone and stated that there were several bodies here that needed them to come and handle. At this time, Lewis and his brother also finally found the place where Vena was located. It turned out that Vena was still not in this room, and just as they entered, the phone inside rang, and the caller was precisely Nail, who had been monitoring the movements of the two all along. At this moment, Lewis suddenly heard Nail's speaking voice coming from next door, and at this point, he finally understood that Nail and Vena were right next door, in room 18. In order to rescue Vena, Lewis had Fuller round to the back of the room to check the situation, while he himself stayed here to hold Nail back. Who would have known that just as Fuller reached the back window, he was caught by Nail, and hearing the commotion, Lewis quickly rushed to the door of room 18. Lewis quickly let go and ran toward the back window, only to see Nail driving away, while Fuller was hung on a fence nearby. Lewis attempted to rescue him, but discovered that Fuller's thigh had already been hooked by a sharp hook. At the exact same time, the police also arrived at the motel, and due to the lack of exact information, they began to break open the doors one by one. Vena, tied up in the room, was terrified to the extreme, knowing that if this continued, she would inevitably face death. At the critical moment, Lewis finally rescued Fuller, and immediately after, he quickly rushed into room 18, and in the very last second before the police opened the door, successfully tackled Vena, saving her just like this. But just as the two sides were confronting each other, Lewis suddenly heard Fuller shouting loudly for help, so he quickly led the police and rushed to the backyard. They saw a truck driving straight toward Fuller, and seeing the urgency of the situation, the police pulled the trigger on the spot. When the police opened the truck door, the driver had already been shot dead, and on the back seat of the truck, there was also a woman tied up, who was precisely Vena's friend, Charlotte. After everything came to a close, Lewis asked the police about the driver's identity, and the police said the other party was a driver for an ice company. Hearing these words, Lewis instantly had an ominous premonition, and just at this moment, a voice suddenly appeared in the radio inside the car. The movie ended here. Brothers, you have all watched this film already, right? It is indeed quite good, and the moral is also reasonably excellent. Some jokes really cannot be made carelessly, because once you touch upon the taboos deep within someone else's heart, the consequences can be unimaginable. So, brothers, have you ever been driven to emotional breakdown by someone's malicious joke?